Hey there, my teists. Just a quick little addendum. So there was actually a request for some Northern Shaolin, and since Northern Shaolin is actually one of my, primary systems, I thought I'd put up Len Buchuan, the first set, and then see how that goes. It's a short set. There's not a lot to it. It's longer than, say, Han Shodan, or really most of the hands. But it's not an overly complicated set. It's just that there's a lot of basics packed into it and a lot of variations. And I've learned it from three, I want to say five teachers, and each one taught it a little differently, but the principles are the same. And I'll go over those. The biggest thing about Northern Shaolin is it's Shaolin, and so it was originally Buddhist. So there's a lot of context of you're not normally going to find a lot of lethal killing techniques, but I mean, in principle, you can adapt anything for that. But, one of the adages that I heard a long time ago, which, it's always been reinforced, is that when it comes to Shaolin martial arts, whether it's, Long Fist or Baji Chuan or Hung Gar, any of the Southern Shaolin systems, in principle, you're supposed to avoid rather than check rather than hurt rather than maim, and maim rather than kill. And then that last part is usually either because all life is sacred and irreplaceable, or because to kill a creature is murder for your karma. Because again, it's Buddhist, so they are concerned about the spiritual repercussions of your actions. So killing someone is definitely going to be bad karma, so you don't want to do it. And in most Shaolin martial arts, they actually would say it's better for you to let yourself die and thus make the choice and let go of your temporary physical body, let go of the crude matter, and sacrifice yourself for the Buddhist ideals and not being attached to your life. I personally don't think that's practical, but I think it's important to know that context. Another thing is that Shaolin is the basis for a lot of martial arts. In fact, there are some that say that all Kung Fu is Shaolin. That's not true, but I would say that any Chinese martial art has been passed through the Shaolin Temple at some point. Like, I've even heard of like Shaolin Tai Chi, which is a weird concept, I'm not going to lie. But anyway, so one of the things that you find is that with Shaolin martial arts, with Kung Fu in general, you'll find that Fang Da Shui Na, where Fang is defensive techniques, Da is offensive or striking techniques. Shui means Shui Jiao, means grappling and wrestling techniques, which can be a throw, but also a general grappling technique, like an overhook, a whizzer, or some kind of like a clinch. So any type of grappling technique will generally fall under Shui Jiao, unless it's Na, Chin Na, which are joint grappling techniques, but can also be chokes, can also be muscle separations and bicep destructions, muscle destructions, and pressure point strikes. So making a single knuckle fist and jamming it into the temple or the pressure point at the temple would not be considered an application of Da. It'd be considered an application of Chin Na. Or you can say it's both. It depends on your teacher, depends on your lineage. For basic principle, I'll keep them separate and I'll say that is an application. But in principle, it could be both. I think it depends on your teacher, and in the end, it depends on how you want to use it. But where Shaolin martial arts are concerned, you'd also find, if I remember the Chinese correctly, qi, not chin, qi meaning energy or qi gong, la, which is la Toy, I'm not la toy, but it essentially means to stretch tendons. It's muscle. It's a calisthenic stretching regimen, like what you'd find before volleyball. So every movement is also going to be a stretch, as well as a qigong movement. Ro, or maybe it's wrong. I'll look it up later. But it's a term for weapon. So every weapon can have or every movement can have a weapon application. So you do a movement empty-handed, and you put a sword in your hand, you put a spear in your hand, you have an application there with the weapon. And then um, there are other terms for the last one. I've heard ja, I've heard tun, I believe. No, toy. I think it's toy. But it's essentially just that every movement can be an isolated fighting stance. And so understanding that with Shaolin, because they're the originators of a lot of these forms, they had that broader spectrum because they had a much more complete curriculum, and they were monks. All they had to do was, keep the temple clean and work on their sutras, and then work on their gong fu to keep their bodies healthy. So they would have this much deeper, richer um, curriculum, and so every movement would be, or every application could be packed or applied into a movement. And if that movement didn't necessarily apply itself, of, oh no, this isn't a good stretch, or this doesn't necessarily apply itself well to a weapon, they'd change the movement. And that's one reason why there's so many variations on Lanbuchuan, is that sometimes they were emphasizing the stretching application, or sometimes they were emphasizing the weapons application, or sometimes they were emphasizing, attack or defense. And at some point, I might put up, three of the variations that I've learned of Lambuchuan. But I'm going to, at the very least, put up the one I like to practice, and go through move by move and just give a basic overview. And there's also, so on top of Northern Shaolin, there's also a request for some more advanced karate concepts. I'm going to work with Paul on that, and I'll probably get a few kata up too in the near future. I'm also potentially going to be taking on a new job, and so that's also going to affect my time, but it also might increase my free time that I can spend towards training and making these videos. I've been doing a lot of training. I'm making a lot of good progress on myself, like that. Like I say, you need to take care of yourself. I also have spent some time focusing on my own training, and unfortunately I've neglected the channel as always, and I apologize for that. But we will get some more stuff up soon, and I will see you guys later. Till then, keep your teacups empty.